Good morning, everybody. It's 12 minutes past 9 o'clock right now. Welcome back to the program. Our good friend Sheree Clark in the studio with us. It's time to spend a little time at the fork in the road, Jackie.
Absolutely. And as we're heading into 2020, we want to do so with our best foot forward. And especially as we're getting older, ladies, we're kind of directing this towards you as well. But I think there's some great information for guys as well. You have a wonderful series that people can learn more from experts in their field on how to be the best we can possibly be.
Absolutely. And as you indicated, Jackie, when we get to midlife, some things have changed and we start thinking about, what do I need to do different to have a good life? And I've got all kinds of experts that will teach us what we need to know.
Okay, so let's learn a little bit more with this video.
Hey, thank you for joining me for the series. I've put together an all-star lineup for you. You're gonna love it. Yes, we'll have a bit of fun, but trust me, there's no fluff. Your time is valuable and fluff is not my style. Watch for a welcome email from me right away with more information about what to expect. Once we get started, you'll get an email from me with a link to each day's interview. The sessions are all about a half hour each, so you can work them into your schedule. Oh, and one other thing, can you give me a sense about why you're here? What issues are you looking for help with? I have a really simple survey and I'd love to get your input. I'll draw a couple of winners at random and give some valuable prizes, like one of the books written by our guest experts. Thanks again for being here. Let's make this a great year.
All right, so what are you calling this?
It's the Magnificent Midlife Woman. And it begins in the middle of January, so on the 15th, and it runs through the end of the month. And I've got 22 experts that I'm going to be interviewing that'll give you all kinds of tips about all kinds of things that are related to midlife. And as you said, Jackie, it's directed toward the ladies, but the men are going to learn some things too.
Absolutely.
You need to tune in.
And the beauty of this, besides just being a half an hour and kind of intriguing everybody with different subject matters and topics that relates to very, from health, with what we're eating or doing, marriage, you include it all. You can hear the podcast and make that part of your life, but then you also can follow up with some wonderful reading material from quite a few of these interviewees as well. And we introduced you to some of them last time you were joining us. You can watch that again at weareiowa.com or go to fork-road.com as well. But let's talk about a new lineup of some wonderful people that you've had the chance to interview.
You bet. So as you said, many of my experts are also authors. On my far right, which is right in front of you, Jackie, this gentleman is actually a publisher, and his name is Berg, and he publishes a publication called The Caregiver. The Caregiver is directed toward people who are taking care of someone else. Usually when you're at midlife, it's your parents.
Right.
And so there's a whole set of circumstances that go with that. The caregivers get fatigued. The caregivers need to be making good decisions. And sometimes it's an ethical thing. Should I tell dad he can't drive? Do I tell mom that she needs to go into the home? Like, all of those kinds of things are really burdensome to the caregiver themselves. So Gary has a whole bunch of support mechanisms, one of them being the magazine that he publishes. And I interviewed him and asked him about the things that we need to be aware of, because caring for our parents when those roles are reversed is a really important time of life. And it's one of those things that we're really not prepared for. You don't think about that.
You're so concentrated on the person that you love, that you want to take care of, you don't realize we also need to be taking care of ourselves, the caregiver.
Exactly, bingo.
So there are some resources, which is fabulous to know, especially one that's consistently coming out.
Yes.
Let's move to the next one, a little fashion.
Yeah, we've got Andrea Flo Murnau. Now, she talks about Shopping for the Real You is the title of her book, and she talks about women's fashion and how we look. So let's face it, as we get older, some things change. The gravity takes over, the bodies change, colors that you might have worn before you don't feel comfortable in anymore, styles, and you might have questions like, well, can I pull this off? Does that look too young? Is this okay? What's a good neckline for me? What do I do? What about accessories? Can I still wear the same jewelry? She addresses all of those things without it being a bunch of rules.
It's just giving you references, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and it's things that maybe you're a little bit, you don't know when you go into a department store and you ask the salesperson, are they just trying to sell me something?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. So then next to her, we've got Sheree Gaba. And Sheree talks about relationships and codependency. And she calls her book the Marriage and Relationship Junkie. And what she talks about in that specifically is that there's all kinds of addictions. And some people get hung up on relationships, and they're in codependent relationships that may or may not be healthy. Now, her take on it isn't necessarily that you have to either stay in the relationship and suck it up or chuck it and go.
Yeah.
She talks about what can you do to make this relationship that may have gotten a little bit lopsided come back into play where it's working for everybody. Very valuable information from her, and you'll really enjoy that interview. Next to Sheree
Big one.
is Margie Bissinger, and Margie talks about osteoporosis. Now there's a big issue, particularly for women, but men also.
Men too.
Bone health as we age is extremely important. When we think about, you fall down, you break a hip, it's all over after that, we hear that expression. Well, that's not funny when it happens to you. If you break a bone, it takes longer to heal. And the way to not break bones is to have strong bones to begin with. And she talks about how do we do that? What exercises do we need to do? What foods do we need to think about? What other lifestyle habits? Did you know that afternoon or evening cocktail takes a toll on your bones? And so we might want to think about it. Might help you relax, but at what cost?
Right.
Also, speaking about the body and physical health, next to her we've got Denise Medved. But Denise has this great program she calls Ageless Grace. And what Ageless Grace is, it's a program that has to do with not just body and coordination. One of the things that she's concerned about is let's don't fall. If you fall, then we go back and we think about the bones and we think about that type of thing. She talks about also engaging the brain.
Right.
So that when you do things, some motor activities that you're moving and you're doing coordinated efforts, it keeps your brain engaged. It's not just as easy as just doing the New York Times crossword puzzle.
Right.
It's more things than that. Next to her, we've got Carrie Schaefer. Carrie talks about food, and we talk about diets all the time, right? There's keto, and there's vegan, and there's this, and there's that, and all kinds of things. She talks about what do those diets have in common, and what is it that we can do so that we're our healthiest best no matter what your philosophy of eating is. How do we stay away from toxins? How do you keep crap out of your diet?
And that stands for something, by the way.
Yes, it does. Exactly. Yes. So keeping crap out of your diet is her shtick. She talks to you about shopping, food preparation, how to make it easy so that it's actually doable. And then finally, in front of me is the Philip and Jane Montrose, and they have co-authored a book, their husband and wife team, and they've co-authored several books, and this one is called Getting Through to Your Soul. Some of us have heard about the expression EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, also known as tapping, and perhaps you've seen that. If you've seen tapping, it's this kind of activity. Okay? And what that does, it's a way of neurologically unhooking some things that might have gotten miswired in your brain. Let's say you've got fear, maybe some limiting beliefs that you're not good enough.
Right.
Those can be addressed with some physical activities that you do, and they'll teach you how. I was so impressed with them, I signed up for their course. So these people are costing me a ton. Andrea's changed my wardrobe.
That's the bottom line here, folks. But this is all going to be made available starting on the 15th.
But it's absolutely free to us,
it's free.
Correct?
It's free to you, exactly. And what you do is you would tune in, you'd go to magnificentmidlifewoman.com, sign up for the free series. I'll send you an email, explain to you exactly how you do it, and you can tune in. And if you're interested in learning more about the experts, you can connect to them, buy their books, do whatever you want.
Perfect. That's
All right,
awesome.
helping us be the best you possible in 2020, especially if we're getting a little older and needing a little extra guidance out there.
And if people want to get a hold of you, it's easy to get a hold of you in case they have any other questions about any other thing in general. How do they do that?
Absolutely. Fork-road.com is my website, and info@fork-road.com is my email address.
Okay, great to see you as always, and thank you for introducing us to some fabulous people. All